Good evening, everyone. I'm Wendall Jones, and welcome to another edition of the program, The Platform. On this program, we examine national and international issues. And tonight on our program, we're going to be talking economics, world economics. And our guest on the program this evening is Dr. Richard Ebeling, who is a professor of economics at Northwood University in the United States of America. He's been on our program before, you'd remember him. And we had a wonderful time talking about economics and the role of government in an economy and the rest of it. And we are going to explore those and other issues today on our program. Dr. Ebeling, welcome again to the program.
It's wonderful to be here. Thank you. Thank you for having me on once more.
Godfrey Eneas is here. Nice to have you, Godfrey.
Thank you.
Dr. Ebeling, I understand you've been at the College of the Bahamas and you've been speaking to our students at COB.
Yes, I was doing lectures yesterday and today, a rather intense schedule of 5 lectures yesterday, 4 today, sponsored by the Nassau Institute and the Templeton Foundations, but hosted by the College of the Bahamas, for an excellent group of students. I want to say that I've taught at a number of universities, both in Europe and the United States, obviously, and I found those students right here in the Bahamas to be insightful, knowledgeable, open-minded, critical, and very articulate. You have a great bunch of a next generation of citizens.
Very good. They challenged you.
Absolutely, in a very serious, intelligent, and articulate way. You don't have to worry about the next generation. You have a good group of young people.
Very good. Now, how many universities have you taught?
Oh, I suppose that either for long periods of time or visiting, it's been over the years, probably 5 or 6.
5 or 6.
I taught at the National University of Ireland for 2 years. I was at the University of Dallas in Texas for 4 years. I was at Hillsdale College in Michigan for 15 years. I then went off to be the president of a nonprofit educational foundation, the Foundation for Economic Education, for 5 years, 2003 to 2008. But then I decided to return to academia. I missed the classroom. I enjoyed teaching. And I was a visiting professor for 1 year at Trinity College in Hartford, Connecticut. But then Northwood University, where I am now in Midland, Michigan, as the phrase goes, gave me an offer I couldn't refuse. And I'm enjoying it there very much.
How's the world economy functioning now?
Well, you know, as Charles Dickens began his famous book, The Tale of Two Cities, it was the best of times and the worst of times. On the one hand, we seem to be recovering from what has been one of the worst economic recessions since the post-war period began, since 1945. A number of the developing countries seem to be continuing to do fairly well, China, India. The problem is that both in Europe and the United States, the economies are lagging and having a hard time recovering from the depths of the recession. Unemployment has been sticky, very high for a long time in both Europe and the United States. And then on top of it, because of the government attempts to pour money into the economy to counteract the recession, and that's a separate issue whether it was good or bad, the fact is huge amounts of debt have been accumulated in the European Union and the United States. Debt that is threatening to challenge the economic stability and financial stability of a number of European countries, and even Standard & Poor's has threatened to downgrade the credit rating of the United States because of its debt and seeming the difficulty to politically to find a way to get the budget in order to start slowing down the borrowing and hopefully get the debt reduced.
Godfrey?
Dr. Ebeling, isn't it the fact that the United States, for example, is reinventing itself in that all the manufacturing jobs are now in China. The automobile industry, even though I see Chrysler became profitable, Japan has exceeded the U.S. and is producing a cheaper and better car. The garment industry is outsourced to places like Bangladesh and Pakistan and Thailand. And all that the industrial midland of America is where you have this huge unemployment. And as a result of that, it's going to take time for America to reinvent itself.
Well, on the one hand, countries always are constantly reinventing themselves. Technology, industry, changing international trade patterns, domestic patterns of consumer demand require companies, industries to constantly remake themselves. New technologies, new innovations, deciding how best to produce products, where to get the resources, where to hire the labor. So in the sense, countries are always remaking themselves, redesigning themselves. In the case of the United States, in fact, manufacturing, the trend of manufacturing has not been catastrophic. It is true that the United States has increasingly moved more towards service sector industries or high-tech industries. But I think that's reflecting America's comparative advantage in capital-intensive, high-technology jobs and people increasing their standards of living, that they want more service functions rather than just old-fashioned home commodity and goods products. So on one hand, that doesn't bother me. And in fact, part of the Midwest, where the recession did hit hard, has been coming back, not so much in the automobile industry, but in some other sectors. So I'm not concerned about America losing jobs. I think the point is that if something can be made cheaper by your neighbor than if you try to make it yourself, better to buy it from your less expensive neighbor and sell him something that you can do better than him. The fact is we do import a lot of goods from China, as many other countries around the world. But it's also the fact that the Chinese do so at a price that makes it attractive to buy from them. If someone is willing to sell me something for $5 that another person can only sell me for $10, why not buy the $5 version and have $5 left over in my pocket to spend on other things that otherwise I couldn't afford? That raises the demand for other things and other employment policies just in other industry or in sectors.
But your government, is, on the other hand, is giving tax breaks to companies to bring those jobs back to the U.S.
Well, I think that to the extent that it's artificially inducing jobs being brought back to the U.S., I consider that to be counterproductive.
Right.
Well, for the simple fact is that what you're doing is you're basically trying to subsidize the recreation of jobs in the United States that international patterns of trade are saying are more productively and efficiently provided and supplied in places like China or other parts of the world. So why should the American taxpayer have to subsidize some domestic producers who can't on their own match foreign suppliers? I think that's just a waste of resources.
Yes, but governments operate in their interest. All governments operate in the national interest. And your government in the United States obviously believes that it's in the national interest of the United States of America to subsidize.
Governments do not work in the national interest.
They don't.
They act in the interest of the special interest groups whose campaign contributions and votes put them in office and stay in office. Whether it's Republicans or Democrats in the United States, for example, the only way you get elected is to promise special interest groups other people's money. And in exchange, those special interest groups give you campaign contributions and votes on election day to hopefully put you in office.
Let's change it. Let's change it then. Should governments operate in the national interest?
Well, of course, it all depends upon what you mean by the national interest.
For the common good.
But that gets us to another question. What is the common good? It is very easy to use the term the general welfare, the common good, the national interest. But once you sort of scratch that surface and start asking people, well, what do you mean by the common good? What do you think is in general welfare? You find there's a diversity of views